Support the Amigos podcast and keep the Amiga goodness flowing for just $1 a month. Visit our page at patreon.com/AmigosPodcast.
Amiga, the first personal computer that gives you a creative edge.
Amigos, the podcast about everything Amiga. Amigos is a proud member of the Throwback Network, your home for quality retro podcasts. And now, here are your hosts, Aaron Dowdy and John Bodovkar Schaller.
Hi everybody, welcome to Amigos. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to talk about Fury of the Furries.
Kinky.
Yeah. But before we get into that, we got some feedback. We got a message from our good friend Jonas over in Hawaii.
Oh, yes.
He says, "Aloha, John and Aaron.
Love it.
Your magnets are in the mail." So
more magnets?
Yeah, so I don't know
Sweet.
if you remember this, but on episode 100, far and away the most popular giveaway item was the magnets.
Yes.
And so we are getting some more of those for a special, a future special episode to give away.
Sweet.
And he also says, "I put a little something extra in the box." And he says, "You'll have to backyard wrestle for this one," what he put in the box.
That sounds good.
He says, "I only had time to retro bite the keyboard and one mouse."
Uh-oh.
So.
Okay. Well, the good thing, Jonas, is that I'm pretty sure I can beat the tar out of a boat in a backyard battle. I'll cheat.
I'll
sacrifice myself. I'm like the Necro Butcher. I don't care.
I'll be the first to admit that you could totally take me down in backyard wrestling.
Yes. That's the 200th episode.
I always picture it being your backyard too.
Oh,
you
yeah.
climbing up on top of the roof
On top
and
of the
right off.
building, like freaking Mick Foley dropped the big
elbow
elbow.
drop. Yep.
He missed that elbow, by the way.
Oh. And of course, the biggest event of last week, might be a little bit longer than a week now, was your birthday.
No. Please, let it die.
And so, I got you a little something that I wanted to give you live on the show.
Oh, gosh, Boat. Good grief. Oh, thank you. You took a picture of that before you destroyed it, eh? There it is. That's tremendous, actually. That really touches me. This is the arcade machine, which you can't quite see. It's a little bit off camera over here. I sold that to Boat. I can't remember what we agreed on. Probably $100.
$75.
$75. And my buddy Leroy, Uncle Leroy, he had painted the side of this thing, and this is a little snapshot of the paint job he did. Mud Mountain Main Machines. I can't remember. Was there any other art on the side?
There was a Pac-Man on there.
Yeah. He had.
I've got pictures of that stuff too, but I thought that was for framing purposes. You can put that up in the building.
I was going to say this is going to go right into the new arcade. Thank you, Boat. That's very nice.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And ironically, a big chunk of the things in the arcade are things you've given me over the years. I mean, art-wise, in fact, I haven't put up the Cubert yet, but I've already put up all the other stuff. And I'm going to put my Amigos magnet up in there too. Right now, it's on my fridge at work. So.
It's gonna the magnet will come in handy because those walls are magnetic, right, in the building.
Yeah, they're magnetic, and we've got magnets holding up a bunch of stuff. You haven't been over there for the longest time.
I haven't.
You need to come over this weekend.
You haven't had me over. You're having parties with
I haven't had me over.
Chudley and Matt. You're having just
you could have came over for the draft last week.
Well, I couldn't have come over for the draft. I had other plans, but.
That's why I'm wearing my Dallas Cowboys shirt. We had our Boat is now in our fantasy football league, American football, and in fact we play this week. I don't know if you watched any of the game last night, but by the way, you're out of the suicide pool.
Yeah, I did not do well. I picked the Patriots to win, and
Brent's out.
They lost in a glorious fashion.
Yeah, and they got crushed at home. I was surprised, but. So we had our fantasy football draft in the arcade. It was the first official event we've had in there, and it went pretty well, all things considered. But Bud had to be out that day. But
yeah, that was actually 2 weeks ago, and we talked about it on the podcast already.
Was it 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
God, what did I do last week? Help me out here.
Last weekend, you were preparing to go get all your Amiga stuff.
That was Monday.
Mm-hmm. And so the 2 days before
I went
that,
to Chudley's house.
right, which you didn't invite me. That was why this whole thing started. When you say, you never come over, and I said you're out gallivanting with your other friends all the time.
Oh yeah, gallivanting. That's what it was.
You just gallivanting.
There's a reason why I ordered that Amiga stuff on there. Let's talk about that. Shall we? Is there any more feedback?
No.
Okay.
That's it.
Good job, Jonas, by the way. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Your minutes are always welcome and a hit. Aloha. I wish I could say that without sounding like a jerk. You know what I'm saying? We don't have anything. Hey, y'all, or whatever.
That's
hey,
it.
y'all doing?
Hey, y'all.
You know. So let's have a quick chat about the Amiga adventure to get the $250 batch of weird stuff. It went without a hitch. Me and the family went up. For those of you that have forgotten or weren't here last week, in a fit of boredom, I got on a Facebook marketplace and somehow managed to purchase some local Amiga stuff, which is unheard of. I've looked and you never see anything.
Now, local for us may be different than what you consider local in England.
That's right. Local for me in this case was a straight 2-hour drive through some interesting roads. You know, it's funny you should mention this. Maybe people know this. I didn't know it. I looked up. I wanted to see how big the entirety of England was compared to West Virginia, right? And the thing, I got on Google, looked it up, and England is exactly 2.1 times as large as West Virginia.
Interesting.
Think about that for a minute now. So effectively, it's like West Virginia combined with, say, Ohio.
Right.
Right. Which over here is not much.
No.
You know, so anytime I hear people on the radio talking about it, I had to, I didn't want to drive to Blackpool or something because that must be a real. And a lot of them don't. A lot of people there. I guess a lot of them don't drive at all, right?
Right.
Which they've got a great transit system. Over in the States, you got to drive, otherwise you're boned.
Yeah.
Because our public transportation's crap. And so for us, driving like you were talking about going to Columbus. Columbus is about 2 hour, 15, 20-minute drive, right?
Yeah.
You just did it on the afternoon, came back the same day. That's the way we do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I was the same way, 2-hour drive. But anyways. It was an interesting batch of stuff. It was not exactly what was billed when I picked it. When I bought it, the picture I saw had some Genesis games and some Saturn games on a little pile, but I didn't get any of those.
Now, you met at a neutral site, right?
We met at a Walmart.
So you couldn't have been like, why don't you go back in the house and get the rest of that
That's right.
stuff?
And it was an old broad and her husband. This was the dude's mom. And this stuff had been sitting in the closet for about a million years. Now, I have filmed several videos, which I'm in the process of editing up, to compare the different the 1200s. I got. I will say, in the lot of stuff I got, one Amiga 1200. Sadly, no acceleration, no expanded, nothing. Just as plain Jane as it can get. However, it did have in it a wacky Data Flyer XDS expansion for the drive. This is wacky. I don't know if I went into this too much with you.
No. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about it. So
I'll go into it just briefly. I'm literally.
This is the Amiga show. You need to go into it
I'm
hardcore.
making a video for it.
Okay.
But picture, if you open up an Amiga 1200, there's a 2.5 inch hard drive, connector in there. You hook your hard drive or your compact flash card up, and you're laughing, right? Well, Data Flyer, which we now have every wacky Data Flyer thing ever made.
We should own stock in Data Flyer.
We've got to talk to my buddy that says he worked for him about this thing.
Man.
So this is a real weird thing. So this thing has a cable that runs to that port, and then it's also got a second connector that you can hook your internal drive up to anyway. Then you run this cable, which the cable looks like a big IDE cable, but it's sort of some kind of proprietary cable. You somehow, however you want to do it, you run this cable out the side of the Amiga, out the bottom. This guy had it running out the expansion slot, which I can't do that because I put an expansion card in it. So I just ran it out the side, just shut the thing on top of it. And it runs to a little external drive box. Inside the box, you've got room for a 3.5 inch or a 2.5 inch hard drive. And it's also got a power adapter on the back, or you can use the Amiga's power. So effectively what you're getting is, and this guy didn't have a drive in the machine, so he was using this external thing to be his drive, his main drive, because you can boot off of it, or you can used as a secondary. So I hooked
Now,
up.
let me ask you a question before you go on.
Yeah.
You can put an internal hard drive in a 1200, right?
Right.
So, what do you think this guy's reasoning was for buying a data flyer and using it that way?
I've got a pretty good idea. Remember, think back. Pretend it's 1993. Okay. What is a 2.5-inch hard drive? It's a laptop hard drive, right? That comes with certain shortcomings, right? Their drive capacity is smaller, the speed is slower, plus, and this is the big one, it's more expensive. Okay, I looked this thing up at retail for about $80. Okay, but it allowed you to use a 3.5-inch hard drive in a 2.5-inch slot, right? So you could get the larger, cheaper hard drive and put it in this thing. I assume that's why you would get one.
That makes sense.
And he did have, sure enough, a 3.5-inch drive in this, which I believe was like I want to say it was like a 30 meg drive or something like that.
So, at the time, say 93, what were the differences in, like, what did your average laptop hard drive max out at?
Boy, you're asking, I can't remember that far back. I know there was a difference. I can't remember what who knows. In 93, I couldn't afford any of that stuff. I would say probably, I'm not sure what it maxed out as, but I knew, and to this day it's still true, the little ones are more expensive than the big ones, which is funny if you think about it, because the big ones have more material in them. This thing had, like I said, it had a hard drive in it, and so when I got it back to the house, I just hooked it up, and sure enough, hard drive spins right up, works like a champ. In fact, I've got it hooked up right now at the house. Right now, I just left it in there. I tried putting a compact flash card in the external hard drive case, and I have not had any positive results. I'm not sure if it's my adapter. I don't know what it is. It seems like it should work. Like I said, the cable coming out of the Amiga is a proprietary cable. It's not an IDE or a SCSI cable. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's a SCSI cable. I don't know what it is. It's something weird, but it's shooting power out. Like I said, the Amiga's powering this thing, so it's an odd cable. It's an unusual little device. Like I said, it's not something that's going to be worth, and especially nowadays, no one really needs that because the compact flash, you put a couple gigs in there. But I guess if you had an Amiga and you want to put your old hard drive in it on top of your compact flash, I hooked this thing up to be a slave, and it worked fine with my existing compact flash stuff. So it's wacky. I don't see any reason to keep it, but I had to do a little video on it, so I'm in the process of fishing that up. But yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy little adapter. Also with the lot was a 1084S monitor. I don't think it works. You hear it come on, but I don't get a light. But I had good luck with the last monitor.
I was going to say, you rebuilt the one that was broken.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I did fix it. But I'm going to give this a whirl. It's in the van. It's ready to go back with me to the lab. Also included with this, and I brought a box of stuff we're going to look through for fun, but also included was a big bag of cables, and it was literally like TV cables. It's crap. There was nothing there I wanted. There was a weird bag of peripherals, like cabling for the Amiga, monitor cable, printer cable. It came with a Star printer, small printer, which I haven't tried, and an extra thing of ink, a box. It also came with some weird joystick things. A steering wheel like this. I don't know how it works. And this weird multicolored pedal thing. I'll bring those on the show sometime, and we'll have to figure out what the hell they are.
Okay.
It also came with a quick shot gamepad. I don't know if it works. I haven't tried that yet. It came with some other weird peripherals. I mean, it was oddball stuff. And it also, on a Mac joystick, I think it's a Mac joystick. And then it also came with the Mac. And what was the number of that Mac? Do you remember that?
I think it was a 6220 CD.
Yeah, and it's a CD-ROM based Mac. It was a Power PC Mac with a disk drive, and you said it's probably a hard drive. And I have not hooked up the Mac yet. Probably wait till you come over to hook that up.
Okay.
And it's got a VGA adapter as well. So overall, I'm pretty happy with it. It wasn't as awesome as it could have been, but it was still, I came out ahead, even with the trip down, and now I can sell my 1200, my old one, and I don't see any reason to have two of them. Although it's neat right now to have, as I bragged on Twitter, I've got more Amigas than probably anyone in the state in my house right now.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Got three Amigas and the CD32, so that's kind of fun. But the day we also had a great time that day, and as we mentioned on the pre-show, running around Lewisburg, so it was a good time. Anyways, I thought we'd look through a couple of these wacky things. This is a box right here. Just gonna bring this on the screen a little bit of just crazy books and stuff that came with it. I'm just gonna grab a couple of these. I'm not gonna look through them all. I mean, I looked at some of this stuff and it was some real weird stuff. So, but this first one here, again, I can't explain any of these. It's the Game Boy. I guess it's the original Game Boy.
Yeah, the original Game Boy, Final Fantasy
Legend book.
Very neat. Actually, the first Game Boy role-playing game I ever played was Final Fantasy Legend 2.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So these are pretty old, then, aren't they? Here's Turn and Burn for the Game Boy, the manual. You're more of a Nintendo guy than me. You got to have this manual. You can't play the game, right? The manual for Tetris. The Tetris manual.
Oh, wow.
Pretty weird, right? Play Action Football.
I
Game
owned
Boy.
that.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is a trip down memory lane for you, eh?
Yeah.
Now here's the Game Boy Owner's Manual. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of neat, you know. Now here's something wacky: Sega Saturn sampler. So I guess I did get some Saturn games. Let's see, the disc is in here. There's a disc in it. Let's see what's the disc. Again, I haven't really looked at this stuff. Yep, there it is, the Sega sampler. I sold one of these Sega samplers for huge money one time.
Really?
It was a super rare one.
Wow.
This is something. This is a Exotech K2. This might be that weird foot thing. I don't think you can make head or tails out of that. I don't know what the heck that is. And then here is some. Oh, here you go, Bo.
This is a owner's manual for rollerblades.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. I've been needing that. Now, sadly, the software's not in here, but this is Run Windows on a Power Mac.
Oh.
That sounds like something I'd want to cast into the furnace.
Yeah.
Adobe PostScript products, can't have enough of those.
Soft Windows. I've never heard of this program before. Interesting.
Here is a weird some kind of weird. Here, you take a look at
poster,
that. No, these are little like. This is some sort of catalog. Oh, this is a comic book catalog.
Okay.
What do you got?
So this is Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. Oh, this is something called American Entertainment Sci-Fi Supplement #1. So
Wow.
this is I think it's a sci-fi merchandise catalog.
Okay.
You can order posters, and this is back when you had to get there was no internet, so you had to get these catalogs to get this stuff. Normal stores did not stock all of this merchandise.
Yeah.
So
Now here's some
really
interesting
neat
stuff here, Boat. Look at this. This will come in handy. 1084S monitor owner's manual.
Cool.
And then we've got the 1200 guide. Gotta have that. The AGA supplement. Gotta have that,
the
right?
AGA supplement.
Workbench 3 manual.
It's funny because this is one of those manuals where this is the English part, and then this is the 19 other languages.
Yeah. There's that. Now here's something you gotta laugh at this, Boat. We've covered this on the show. The Epix Winter Games instructions.
Awesome.
And this is the 2600, 7800, and the Telegram. So this is including the 7800
Wow.
version.
Apparently you didn't need any special instructions.
Now this is old school. Wow, I didn't expect to see these in here. Atari 2600 Double Dunk manual.
I've never even heard of that game.
Double Dunk. There's
Double
so
Dunk.
many crazy ones. Oh, here's the one I guarantee you've heard of. Both the Atari 2600 version, Super Baseball.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Super
I've
Baseball.
got Super Baseball somewhere right over there.
Gosh, it's funny. We got all these little manuals. Here's the manual for Frogger.
Mm-hmm.
E.T. Is it E.T. tips? Look at that. Is that a little poster? What is that? You can figure it out.
Yeah. All right, we should probably wrap this segment up for our
yeah.
audio listeners.
Yeah, what are you saying? They're not enjoying this?
You saying things of titles of manuals, and I saying, "Yep, that's what that is."
There's one more thing in here that I thought was interesting. me see here. Here is the manual for Deluxe Paint 4.
Now that is a manual. This is back when they made manuals for real. This is the, spiral bound. I mean, you need to have a manual like this, obviously, for something like Deluxe Paint.
Back in the day.
That's a really cool thing to put on the bookshelf.
And lastly, and this did not come with the batch, but I accidentally bought this last week. My copy of Cannon Fodder 2. It came in the mail. It's in pristine condition. There's no grenade in here, though, unfortunately. But that's the way she goes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing that stuff.
Oh, no problem. That's the first of the next batch will be the weird joysticks. I'll bring some of those over and we'll try to get to those.
All right. Well, we should probably move on to this week's Amiga news.
All right. We had some interesting news this week, actually. Let me grab the Amigatron 5 million here. So, first off, just a little gloat. We, in fact, finally hit 200 members on the Google Plus page. So, congratulations to all the members. Good job. Thanks for lingering. We actually occasionally get some action in there.
Yeah.
So, our buddies over at the company this week released another one of their famous EXE all-in-one Amiga files. 2.6 version for Fire Force.
I like the caption here. A military action shooter you might want to play.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Well, they took the time to do it. So if you're into that sort of thing. So the big news for me this week, and this is actually sort of pertinent to you, Boat, since you just sort of mentioned on the pre-show. It's actually a couple weeks old, but I haven't covered it until this week, so I get a chance to look at it. A fellow has released what he's calling the Ultimate Amiga for RetroPie collection. And what this is a RetroPie image that has it all, presumably. I downloaded this, and I've actually put it on a card, but I haven't got to look at it yet. But there's a forum, or there's a group on Facebook called the WHD RetroPie users group, something like that. I've been a member of that place for a while, and they always have good tips on what to do and how to implement this stuff. And what someone who was a pretty big deal, I think, in that area, what he did was he basically took all the knowledge, information, and the packs, and everything they figured out throughout the last couple years, and he rolled it into one huge collection. The collection takes over 60 gigs to install on your SD card. So if you're going to get this for your Pi, you're going to have a above a 64 gig card, and it's pretty massive. Now that said, and I mentioned this on Google Plus, this collection did not sit well with the movers and shakers on the Facebook group, which they never do. And I guess they're upset because it's just like any of these collections, like we've talked about with pinball, we've talked about with the fighting game, collections. People are afraid they're not going to get credit for what their work, or which I can understand. That said, I can tell you firsthand that cobbling together these images to get your WHDs to load is a pain. It's very difficult, and I've read nothing but good things about this collection. The guy doing it was a real ace, and he's already released an update pack, and he's got another one coming because people are sending him fixes. And so if you're looking to get in the Amiga game and for on the cheap, you can get you a 128 gig micro SD card, a Raspberry Pi, and you're pretty much in probably for under $70. The performance is good. It'll run all the Amiga stuff pretty well. If you don't have a problem with it, we're getting into it's like a double gray area, really. You've angered the people that helped figure out how to use the collection. Plus, you of course are also pirating a bunch of crap.
Right.
So.
And not only that, it's really triple because you're also presumably probably not owning the workbench ROMs that you need to run this stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely true. it's funny. I'm torn on this one. I downloaded it, so it shows you where I'm at. I don't need it. Really, I got just to look at it, and I thought I might be able to use some of the content for my Kalisto Amiga Forever. That much said, one thing Amiga Forever can't do, apparently, and Lord knows I've spent the whole week trying to figure it out, is run WHD load files directly from the front menu.
Right.
And which is one thing that this collection will do. It just loads them right up. I don't have a problem with just going into and playing them like that, but it's convenient to be able to run them. The Kickstart ROMs, I mean, we've sort of beat that horse down. Kalisto owns them. As much as I love Amiga Forever, and I've raved about it, the ROM thing, I don't get. I just don't get it. After all these years enforcing, and they really don't really enforce their copyright on it, but they want you to pay for it. I don't know. When does that stuff? To me, we've already went down there.
Yeah,
road.
yeah. Let's.
So, but anyway, it's out there. If you're interested in getting it, it's out there. There you go.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move over. We only have one site update this week over at everythingamiga.com, and it is Dreamcatcher again. He's done a sequel to his article on Masters of the Universe for the Amiga, and this time
I couldn't believe this.
he takes a look at the C64 version. It's not really the C64 version; it's the C64 Masters of the Universe. He just must be on a He-Man kick, and so he really does a great job. And actually, I think this game doesn't look too bad. It's called the Illirth Stone, and if I scroll down here, it sort of has a. I like the skulls cracked. That is, one of your scoring metrics, and it's got almost like a Sierra King's Quest type, screen where your sprite is small and the backgrounds are very detailed. Of course, this is not a. It's not a point and click adventure game, but it looks neat. It looks neat. Did you get a chance to look at this?
I looked it over. I never had a C64, as you know, and looking at stuff like this, if you consider the era, and I think that's the Spectrum version. If you consider the era when this was out, all right, you're talking way back, and consider the era of this when C64 was there and there was no Amiga and Atari ST. I wish I'd had access to one of these because the game screens look awesome. And coming from the Coco, and I love my Coco, don't get me wrong, and I know you loved your Atari, but this is some good looking stuff.
Yeah.
And it looks like the kind of game I would have loved. I like stuff that felt open ended, even if it wasn't. And at the time, it was like, man, this is so great. You can just do anything you want, man.
Right.
When you really didn't realize what that meant. And this game looked, I know the game might stink, but it looked kind of fun. I never liked He-Man. I mentioned that before, but this looks like my kind of game. And I just like the graphics. They have a nice look to them, So, I'll have to come back to the C64 days when I get my C64 forever.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for site updates this week. So let's go ahead and roll on over to this week's game, Fury of the Furries.
All right. Let's get into it here. So this is a game that, Bo, I believe you had done a Amigos plays on a while back. This is the first time I already had a look at it. So this game came out in '93. It was developed by an outfit called At Reed Concepts. They didn't do that many games on the Amiga. They did something called the Brainies. Well, it's a long story. They did a thing called Tiny Skaveeks, and then my favorite, Paragliding Simulation.
Of course.
This came on 5 discs or on CD. 5. That's a lot.
That's a lot of discs.
It was published by an outfit called Kalisto. This is the only game they ever published on the Amiga. The coder of this was a guy named Sebastian Wloch, W-L-O-C-H. You want to try that one?
Maybe Locke.
Yeah, I think so. If you look down the list of the people that worked on this, really none of them did much on the Amiga except for here and there stuff. It was, they didn't do a whole lot. And this is the only game that Sebastian did on the Amiga as well. So, what is this game? to me, I'm going to let you get more into it, but it sort of reminded me of like a more arcadey Lost Vikings or something. You go ahead and explain exactly explain the gameplay as best you can.
Okay, well, it's not difficult. You have at your disposal any number of little furry creatures. If you're watching the stream, you can see that there's some backstory here where they crash on another planet, and they've got to negotiate, these various levels. The way that it works is instead of having, multiple little furry creatures, you are one furry creature, and depending on what color you are, you have different abilities. So
Tiny was his name.
Is that the name of the
name,
guy?
Tiny,
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't investigate the lore,
Oh,
so I'm
yeah.
glad that
I had
you
to
did.
get the backstory.
Yeah. And so, for example, if you are a yellow guy, you can shoot a projectile, and dispatch your enemies. If you're the red furry, you have monster teeth, and you can bite through things, walls and floors and things. If you're the blue furry, you can swim underwater. The green furry has a kind of a Bionic Commando or ninja rope, like from Worms or something like that, and you use that. And so basically each stage gives you different challenges that you have to solve based on what furries you have to choose from. And to choose your furry, I think that this is one of the genius things about the game. They didn't make it a difficult keyboard combination. In fact, you don't even have to touch the keyboard. That was always the problem with Lost Vikings, if you remember, is that you're constantly taking your hand off the controller to go to the keyboard.
That was the big flaw. Yeah.
Right. So in Furry the Furries, all you have to do is hold down for a second or two, and then you actually have a down on the bottom of the screen, you can see all the different colors of furries you can choose from. You just press left or right, hit the button, and you're immediately that color.
Yeah, that's a better system.
Yeah.
And that would have been even easier on Lost Vikings. There weren't as many Vikings.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they didn't go that route.
Yeah. So that's basically the game in a nutshell. The early levels start out very easy, and they basically demonstrate, they're there to show you how to use the furries. And as the levels progress, it opens up so you'll have more different furries to choose from. Another thing that's kind of interesting about this game is that you don't just automatically start with all the furries all the time. Sometimes you have to go through these portals that look like confetti, certain color confetti, and when you go through that portal, you get access to that furry. And so just depending on what kind of challenge the level wants to throw at you, they might give you all of them from the beginning, but you might have to figure out how to access the particular furry that you need to complete the challenge.
The thing that threw me out, it's funny, when I first tried this game, I sat down and played it, and I was just bebopping along, had no idea what the concept of the game was, and got to a point where I was like, I can't jump to that. And so then I got interested in the bouncing concept,
right,
which is bizarre.
It is.
Explain that.
Yeah, so that's another big thing in this game. So the jumping is kind of exponential, where it's almost like bouncing a ball with infinite momentum. So when you jump at the beginning, it's just a little jump, and then you double jump, and it's kind of like the triple jump that Mario has in Super Mario 64, if you've ever played that, where your first jump is small, but your successive jumps are bigger. But in this game, you don't have to have any sort of facility at all with the controller. If you hold up, you'll just bounce until you get to your highest bounce. Now, I remapped my controls almost immediately to give myself a button for jump, and that made things a lot easier because a lot of times these jumps are very precise, and if you're pressing up to jump, you're a lot of times, especially if you're playing with a 360 pad like I am, you accidentally hit another direction as you're trying to jump up, and that's catastrophic.
You just instantly described one of the biggest pains in my hiney was the controls of this game. It is, how can I describe it? It does not feel very console-y, let's put it that way. It's that loosey-goosey,
Feels floaty.
Sort of a PC, like Jill of the Jungle, I mean, and don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean it's bad. It's real loose and weird, and it took me in between, which I could deal with that, and I could also deal with bouncing the jump, but doing both and hitting up, yes, that was a real. I had all kinds of trouble. The funny thing about this game for me is I didn't have any trouble getting past the first gosh, I got pretty decently ways in the game. I was like, man, this is so simple, it's ridiculous. They do a decent job of making you not feel like an idiot. It's one of the few Amiga games where I could play through it and I was like, hey, I'm great.
Right.
As opposed to like, I'm horrible. Why am I doing this? I thought the guys were suitably cute. Or Guy, Tony, and the bad guys. The game is trying to think the best way to describe it. It's unusual. It's different. That's for sure. I don't think like I said, saying it's like the Lost Vikings isn't really fair. It's not really. It's way more arcadey than that.
One thing that I want to touch on is the music in this game. I loved the music.
Yeah, music was really good.
I'll play a little bit of the track here, and as we talk a little bit, the music sounds like. It sounds like a song. It doesn't sound like this is what we threw in at the last moment to give us some background music. Like it's got structure, and I think that it really fits. It's not too intense. It's a little bit relaxed, and it helps you relax as a player as you're playing.
The the musician for this was a guy named Frédéric Moult. This was made by the studio is French, by the way, in case you didn't know it. And the other head musician was Olivier Balmerte, something like that. He didn't do anything on the Amiga. Frederick did mostly the Altered stuff, and then I looked his other game list. I never heard of most of that stuff. So, but it's one of the reasons I wrote it down. I was like, the music in this is pretty tight. I kind of liked it. It's got a nice groove to it, which is like I said, it fits the game real well. It's definitely not an afterthought,
right?
Or something that somebody wrote the night before, So this game has, I believe it's got like 8 levels. There's a bunch of different levels here. You've got, and I don't know how far you got into this. You can tell me. You've got desert, a lagoon, forest, pyramids, mountains, and a factory, and a village, and a castle. And then each one of those has different stages in the level. The bad guy in this is a fellow called the Wicked One. Basically, the whole story of this thing is the Tinies, these little creatures, came back to their home planet after being in space, and they found out that the Wicked One had jacked up their planet, and so basically they're going to, it's pretty simple stuff. This game got a pretty decent release. Again, this is a game I had heard the name of this, but I was way off. I didn't know what exactly it was. Again, you hear these names, and I don't know what I thought it was, but I thought it was like a fighting game or something. But, nothing like that. But this game actually had a decent release. It was out on and I think the original version of this was on the Apple, believe it or not, the Mac. It also had a Game Boy release, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
And a DOS VGA release. So that's which is kind of neat. Now, let's get into the really weird part of this game, which Boat. I briefly talked to Boat about this before we went on air, and this is the part that struck me as strange. So this game sort of kind of got a release on the Super Nintendo, and it also, the version of the Game Boy, that when I mentioned this is on the Game Boy, it is on the Game Boy, but it's in the same version that the Super Nintendo got. Basically, these guys worked a deal out with Namco, okay? And they released this game as a Pac-Man franchise game, all right? How strange as that sounds. The game was called Pac-In-Time. Now, I had never heard of this game, ever. And I thought I knew most of the Pac-Man games, but I was way off base. So, in the Game Boy version, the Game Boy version of this is pretty much, it just took out Tiny and put in Pac-Man. That's pretty much it. They made a few changes and it was ready to go. I watched some of the Super Nintendo version of this, which I believe is what you've got on the screen now. The Super Nintendo version looks great, but it retains pretty much the same gameplay. I think they've mixed the levels up and they've enhanced them a little bit. For the most part, it's pretty much the same game, but you're Pac-Man. It's got the whole Pac family in it. I watched the intro. It's got Pac-Man, Pac-Baby, Miss Pac-Man. I've just got them all, in there. I don't know if a Super Pac-Man was in there. The funny thing about this is, in the original game, there are references to all kinds of crazy things on the different levels. There's references to Batman, Cool Spot, Street Fighter 2, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Pac-Man. So which I thought it was amusing that a character that was referenced in the original game turned out to sort of take over the game.
It is weird how it kind of comes full circle.
Yeah. Did you see any of these weird references when you were? How far did you get into this? I know you played this a lot.
Well, I don't know that. This is one of those games where I felt like I was playing it forever.
Yeah.
But the stages, I don't think I got past the first.
The first round.
Yeah, the first round.
According to this article I found here, at level 2, the pyramid stage, there's a giant ball trap, like the big boulder in Indiana Jones, and then there's a forest stage on level 2 that has a wrecked ATST like Star Wars. Then there's some and this is the one I really caught my eye. There's some other things, but level 9 is the village, and there's a giant white balloon-like enemy that chases the Tiny around the village. Now, if you've ever watched The Prisoner, which I'm guessing you have not.
That was way before my time.
Well, it was before my time too, dingbat. The Prisoner was a tremendous show. I'm the biggest fan of that show, and Patrick McGowan loved him. But if you've watched that show, that there's a entity around the village that keeps people from escaping, and that entity's a big white ball. It's called Rover. Mm-hmm. And you don't want Rover to come over because he'll run you over and he'll jack you up. But Rover made the game, and apparently on that level there's all kinds of homages to The Prisoner. Which, hey, any game that pays homage to The Prisoner I'm down with. So they did pretty good with this game, though, and I don't know, but I mean, in terms of the Pac-Man side of it, like I said, you were more of a Nintendo boy than me. You've not heard of that. You've never heard of that game at all, Pac-In-Time?
No, I mean, I remember Pac-Man 2, which was subtitled The New Adventures.
Right.
But Pac-In-Time, that eluded me.
Yeah. That's what honestly, I've never heard of it. And from what the video I watched, I didn't even have it in my ROMs. Mm-hmm. From the video I watched, just the same kind of wacky, floaty weirdness that this. It's the same game.
Physics engine. Yeah.
So who'd have thunk it? So this game was pretty well received. In '94, PC Gamer UK named it the 40th best computer game of all time. High praise indeed.
Wow.
The Amiga reviews were similarly decent. If I can read them here. 80s and 90s. Have we ever mentioned a magazine called Amiga Dream? I don't know.
I swear every week there's a new magazine that we.
Every time I look at this, I'm like, what the hell is that? Man, Amiga Format gave this like a 55%. So they didn't like it. Amiga Power 77. The One gave it a 90, and Amiga Dream gave it a 90, so they liked it. So it's sort of I don't know how you get a 55 out of this. That's a pretty crummy score.
Yeah.
I don't know why got to score that low. A little bit about Kalisto Entertainment, which is the publisher of this. I found this kind of interesting. So they were around back in the day, and they got picked up and bought by Mindscape. Okay. So then in '96. Nicholas Guillaume, Guillaume, who I guess ran the company, bought back 100% of it from Mindscape. He bought his company back effectively, and then they released some stuff all the way up until like 2001. They were releasing stuff, including a couple sort of sequels to this in a way. I didn't look at these things, but one of them is called Tiny's Farter. So. Sounds like a winner. One of the last games they released. They also released, and this is what I did remember, Nightmare Creatures? That was one of theirs. That's one I did play.
Don't Google Tiny's Farter.
Don't worry.
Just for your...
They also, here amongst the games that these guys put out was that anyone would have heard of would have been Power Monger. They released a version on that somewhere. And basically that and Nightmare Creatures 1 and 2 are the only ones I've heard of. Al Uncher Jr. Arcade Racing. So, but they were all over the map.
Yeah.
That's just some weird stuff. Anyway, so In June 2000, they acquired an outfit called Daylight Productions and then renamed it Kalisto Entertainment USA. But unfortunately, as this happens, we've heard this time and time again. After buying another company, they went bankrupt in 2002, and that was the end of them. And so that was 30 people gone. In 2002, they folded. So kind of a bummer. But hey, at least they released Tiny's Farter before they went down. And these guys were in Bordeaux, France. So they were based out of France. So with all that in mind, where do you put this in the pantheon of ball-related arcade puzzlers? Which I can think of, what, 4?
Well, this game does share some commonalities with Whizball.
The bounce aspect of it, I guess, is what.
That's exactly what I'm thinking
I'm
of.
serious.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
Yeah. So I don't think that this was as frustrating as Whizball was because it doesn't have the sort of item collection at the beginning that you need to be able to progress. I think that the controls were weird. They weren't weird in a totally frustrating way because the game was so easy in its beginning stages. If they would have made a game like Super Frog, where just instant deaths into spikes aplenty. I mean, in this game there are spikes, but you can see where you're going most of the time. I had a lot of fun with it. The green guy with the ninja rope, swinging around the stages and stuff like that.
That sort of reminded me of playing Worms.
Right.
I was a pretty good hand with the rope. That made this fun.
Yeah.
It's unusual. It feels weird in a game like this too. It's an unusual sort of concept to throw in. What would you? I won't say platformer, but whatever this is.
Well, Bionic Commando. The whole game is based on that concept. I don't know if you ever played Bionic Commando.
I have, but I mean, this doesn't feel like Bionic Commando.
No, it's much more like a ninja rope in that you have like sort of 360-degree swinging ability. You're not limited by what is normal. But I don't know. I'm a sucker for a game with good music, and there are so many games on the Amiga that don't even have background music that it was such a treat to come across a game that I felt like I could make solid progress in while enjoying the music, while kind of getting into the characters a little bit. I mean, they are what they are. But overall, I mean, obviously I like this game because I suggested we do it.
Well, music is good. There's no doubt about that. When I look at when I break it down, the graphics, they're okay.
They're okay.
Okay. The character, again, it's not. They're okay. It's nothing. It's no great shakes. The Tiny, he's okay.
Right.
It's not like, remember the game for the I think it was for the NES, The Boy and His Blob, which the Blob was an interesting character. Like this is sort of what I equate this guy to, and the Blob's better. Right. This guy's okay, but he's not great. This game, I mean, it really is. I hate to keep mentioning it, but this is like a much more arcadey version of Lost Vikings, and I love Lost Vikings. I liked it. I think I did like this a little more just because it was quicker paced.
Yeah,
and also like it felt more arcadey. I mean, like you could. It varied a lot, and that made it more fun for me.
The thing that I liked more about this game than Lost Vikings is Lost Vikings felt it didn't feel linear. It always felt like you were in a 9-story building and you were trying to maneuver around in that. Versus these stages, you're doing the same sort of puzzle activity, but you have a clear path forward to get to the end.
Way less frustrating.
Yeah.
And that's a fact.
Yeah.
So I would give it, again, this not necessarily my type of game, but I enjoyed it when I played it. But it's not like I was licking my chops to get back at it. I'm lazy when it comes to games. I don't like to have to think too much. I think that's the problem. So, but overall, I thought it was pretty good. I did look it up on eBay. I wish I'd looked up Pac-In-Time. I did not look it up, but I did look up this game on eBay. And let me tell you something. Again, this is another game that I don't know if it got an American release, but an American was selling one, and he was the only one. So I'm assuming it did. There have been 2 of these pop up on eBay. There's one currently up, and there's one that has sold. The one up right now, they're asking, it's in the U.S., they want $67 shipped in U.S. dollars, right? pretty high price tag, right? In
Oh,
the
yeah.
box. And I thought to myself, well, this guy's fishing, right? One sold like a month or two ago for $70 shipped. So
This
that looks
is
like looks like about like the going rate.
yeah. It seems to be it seems to be more rare than Pac-In-Time. Pac-In-Time, you've got I'm looking at this auction right now. $20 gets you both Pac-In-Time and Miss Pac-Man. Now these are pretty rough examples. There is an auction for a factory sealed copy going for $330. Good luck getting that.
See what the Gameboy's going for if you can find one real quick. That'd be kind of interesting. I like looking up these kind of obscure game companies, And it's funny to me. This is a company that didn't do a ton, but they're still in bed with Namco. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That really surprised me. I don't know how those deals get made. I guess they were big enough. I guess maybe when they were hooked up with Mindscape, that's a pretty decently sized company, so they made the deal. Did you
Looks
find anything?
looks like Pac-In-Time. You can get cart only for looks like about $13 shipped.
We may have to do a comparison someday on those two.
Yeah,
that
would
be kind of
fun.
fun.
So anyway, yeah, Fury of the Furries.
Also, the name stinks.
Yeah. Well,
Did I
think
mention that?
it sounds French.
No, yeah, it sounds no good.
I mean, I wonder what it was called, and I'm sure that's a translation. Maybe it lost.
When
something.
I look at these guys, I don't think Fury. I don't know what I think. Little goofs. And we really,
would you rather it be called Little Goofs?
I mean, how many little? It's like a tribble with big feet and big eyes.
Yeah,
basically. It's a little. But I mean, how many times have you seen that kind of concept? A little fur ball. I could have done. I mean, they could have done. I think I would have chosen something a little more interesting.
What would you have chosen?
Well, the blob angle I think is okay, but it's sort of been done too. So what is an unrepresented item in video games? Let me think here for a minute. How about I don't know, porcupine? That'd be kind of neat. Why not a porcupine or some sort of mythical creature?
Well, I think
that's all I got. See, this is why I don't make video games.
I think that you need to have something that is a little bit more nondescript, like a blob, because you're going to be the different abilities of these things. You want to have something that they can assume it without changing.
I think a porcupine could pull off all the stuff this guy does.
Oh, sure.
He shoots. He bounces. He also swings. The swinging. I mean,
what you're describing is Sonic the Hedgehog, though.
Yeah, but he's a hedgehog. I'm talking porcupine. Porcupines are cute. A sloth. That'd be another good one. Well,
sloths are unrepresented in video games for sure,
and they're super cute.
They are super cute. So. I'd love to have a pet sloth.
Really?
Well, probably not, but in my mind, I would.
You just said that to close the conversation. Let's call it what it is.
I want to thank all of you, of course, for listening. And we are going to be we're streaming tonight on Twitch. Our YouTube situation is weird right now because for whatever reason, the chat functionality on YouTube Gaming is not working for me. So if you want to watch us live, you'd be best served by subscribing to our Twitch channel too, so you can get notified. So when we do start streaming on Twitch, we can, you'll get notified and you can come in. I'd like to thank Gary Hucker for stopping by in the chat, and also Lurker74, who I believe is Jason. So thank you guys for stopping by and taking part in the show with us. Gary says, great to hear you have a working A1200 now.
Yeah, oh man, let me tell you. Having that second mouse button and not having this weird lock it's great. And it's also much whiter than my old one.
Sweet.
Nice touch.
Yeah. And I'd also like to thank, of course, Hall of Light for all of the disc images that we have on when we were showing the playthrough. And finally, you might have noticed that we look a little bit more clear this week. And this is the first episode that we're filming with our brand new Panasonic G7 camera, and so this was all paid for with the help of our Patreon supporters. So you made this happen. You can see me and you in glorious high definition.
Now they need to pay for some masks. and then we'll be laughing, or some sort of veil.
Yeah,
would also be good.
And so I want to thank our Patreon supporters. If you want to support Amigos on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/AmigosPodcast.
Hey, wait a minute, hold on a second before you do this. How come you don't rap or sing or dance or read these dramatically? What happened to that? That was the spice.
I'm not going to lie to you. I kind of ran out of ideas.
Nah, I knew it. See, that's the next thing I want to hear. Write in some ideas so we can make Boat do some funny stuff with the names.
Okay.
Because as much as I hated that, now I miss it. I'm like, it's like a heroin addiction. It's killing me, but I gotta have more.
So here we go. I'm going to read the names, possibly for the last time, without being silly, and then next week we're back to the silliness.
They're sort of silly even when you read them, because even when you're serious, it's sort of funny.
That's true. Christopher Hassel, Ravi Abbott, Chris Foles, Dreamcatcher, Laurent Giroux, Graham Vebke, Brent Dowdy, Lane Denson, Adam Battersby, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, Gary Hucker, C. Brian Jones, Paul Harrington, Duncan Stiles, Alan Kebab, Anthony Jarvis, Tapes from the Crypt, Josh Dan, Will Williams, Adam Bradley, Neil Mansell, Jonas Rulo, THT, Eric Nelson, Kim Tommy Humbertstad, Daniel Bingston, Brutal Barracuda, Darren Coles, Jason Warnes, Pixels at Dawn, and Kjolbjorn Barman. So
there's some great names in there.
There are. We got the best Patreon names in the world.
It sounds like if you assembled these people, like it'd be like a fighting force.
I know.
Of extraordinary magnitude.
This is like the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
It is. It's a lot of these people.
Or picture like a character selection screen in a fighting game.
Sure, man. It's like, you want Barman or Barracuda? It's just like, holy crap. I don't know.
Kebab.
Tapes from the Crypt. You got all these guys.
Oh,
it's tremendous.
Did I read Tapes from the Crypt?
You didn't read it the cool voice way.
Yeah, sorry about that. Tapes from
it's
the
too
Crypt.
late now. The moment's passed.
It's true. The moment has passed. Next week, Aaron, this is your call. We're going to do a tribute to Data East.
Yes. Love them.
What does that mean exactly?
The Data East, they're super groovy, man. It's going to be some swanky time.
Are you going to reveal the games, or is that going to be a surprise?
I already told you what I wanted to do, but I'll reveal them again.
Okay.
We're going to do two of my faves. I mean, in the arcade.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how they stand up to the scrutiny of the non-review we'll give these. We're going to non-review the hell out of these. You got Sly Spy, right? And which I believe, and I know this for certain, that because this is where I got the idea. Dreamcatcher did no, take that back. Was it? I think Dreamcatcher was. Help me out here, Kim. It was
Kim Justice.
Kim Justice did a video on. That's where I saw it, and it was great. But I love Sly Spy, and then we're gonna do one of my all-time favorites, The Bad Dudes,
right.
Dragon Ninja, or Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja, whatever you want to call it.
We're gonna save Ronnie.
We're going to be bad.
That's
we can do
right.
the cheer. It's going to be great. We're safe, Ronnie.
All right, so tune in. Next week, hopefully we'll be back on schedule.
No chance. 0%. Just tell them what happened this week. Don't blame me for this one.
So this week, I'm starting a new part-time job, and I've got the training for that on Monday. So this will go up on Monday. You'll still hear it on Monday, but of course we're recording it on Friday. But we're hoping to be back on Mondays. I'm not foreseeing any crazy things happening between now and then, but of course there probably will be.
Who knows?
Who knows?
See, last Monday I was in a cave. I had no idea. So weird things happen,
but wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we'll be back at some point in the future.
Cranking out another one.
That's right. Until then, guys, adios.